Hi, Creative Claire from Right Accounts, and in this video I'm going to talk about sales analysis. What I mean by sales analysis is looking at what sold and when it sold and using that information to inform our business going forward. Now, originally I wrote this blog aimed at the after Christmas period, but I actually think it's a really good time to revisit this, particularly if your sales have slowed. And the information really is current situation aside, and hopefully this video will stick around long enough that nobody will realize what the current situation is. So the first thing I'm going to say is whether you're doing this to apply for government assistance, or you just have a little bit more time to do your bookkeeping and really want to start thinking about Christmas, because it will come around much quicker than you expect it to. So the first thing I always do when I look at my sales analysis is do an analysis of the stock. So it's probably too late to reinforce the point that you really need a system of recording specifically what was sold, what item in particular. So not just the total sale, not just whether a card or cash was used, what was the specific item that sold. Now, if you use Square for your card processing, you can actually set up inventory within Square. And then if you use that Square app to record both card and cash sales, you will have a complete record of exactly what sold, what time it sold, what else the customer purchased in that same transaction. And you have this really beautifully informative amount of data that you can analyze to help your business. If you do use paper records and you have paper records from your last major season, that's fine, go ahead. You can, if you digitize those, it's actually really easy to run analysis on them. So what are we going to analyze? So the first thing is we analyze the products, and it's much easier if you can categorize your products or group them together. So for Right Designs, naturally metal, the type of metal jewelry, is an easy group, along with the type of jewelry. So was it earrings, necklaces, bracelets, etc. And then what I can do is I can start to combine those two, and I can do analysis. So I can say that copper earrings is the most popular group, but when I sell necklaces, they're most popular in silver. I can report both this on quantity, the number of items sold, so maybe 8% of sales were earrings, 18% necklaces, 2% bracelets, or I can actually report on the value of those sales. So 60% of the value of my sales were silver, 25% copper, and 15% brass. So like I said, it really works best when you can start to layer the categories of your inventory, so you can see both in aggregate, earrings or silver, and in detail. So I can see specifically how many silver earrings in a large circle with a hammered finish on a dangle drop that I sold. And it seems like a lot of information, but it is really useful. So in my business, my layers of categories are the metal, the jewelry type, the size of the item, so I have different sizes, the shape, the finish, and colour of any elements if I've added. Maybe they have the leather component, any gemstones, any lengths of necklace chains, and any earring back types. And I'll see both which item is most popular and from within each of those categories what is most popular. So when you build up a good sales history like this with the detailed inventory, you can also start to see trends. So for example, copper for me, particularly in earrings, used to be way more popular probably 2 years ago now. And slowly I can see that's changing. So now brass is becoming more popular. And I can use that information to adapt what stock I make. Now, obviously, what you sell is impacted by what you have available. So a size 12 dress is obviously going to be the most popular choice if that's the only size you have in stock. But presuming you have a good range, this really can help you tailor both your designs and the actual stock you create. So the second major analysis that I do is a sales trend. So in order for me to prepare for a coming Christmas season, I can look at both the quantity and the value of sales over those same months in the previous year. So you need to obviously factor in anything before any specific events or specific changes before making any generalizations. So for example, did you close your shop for a week in November because you went on holiday, or you were overrun with sales and you wanted to make sure you could keep up with the inventory? Did you do 3 markets in November, 3 markets in October, 9 markets in November and 2 markets in December? That sort of information really is going to impact the total number of sales and value of sales, because obviously you were at a lot more events in November than you were in December. So taking the straight total isn't necessarily going to be as informative, but you can then start to work out, okay, so if I did 9 markets in November and that was 9 days, I can work out an average income from markets from that information. Then you can use this as well to look at what's happening in the current period. So if online sales are slow in October, you may look back to October last year and go, okay, online sales were pretty slow in October last year as well, so it's not really a time to panic. People probably are just saving up for Christmas. And again, maybe if you decide you want to launch a product during that season, you could look at when your sales peaked to figure out when the best time to launch it may be. Because if you launch it at the beginning of November, some people have actually already finished their Christmas shopping by then. So, but are those your customers? Are you still selling well in December? So also make notes about some of the events that impacted those sales, so you can revisit that information. You might decide against booking a market every weekend in November because you couldn't keep up with stock, or you might realise that your real Christmas season doesn't start until the middle of November, so those end of October, early November markets are generally not that good for you because you sell Christmas puddings. You know, is somebody going to be buying a Christmas pudding at the middle of October? Potentially not, but it's about your product and your target audience. So if you start really selling the middle of November, you want to be working your inventory creation schedule to that middle of November time. So most important, as with pretty much all my advice, is to know what worked for you. Are there markets that really align to your target market? Did you do 2 markets every weekend in November in 2 different locations? I did one Newcastle on a Saturday and Sydney on a Sunday, and I found out that was too much for me. With the drive and the setup and creating the stock, it was just too much, and I need to learn that lesson, and I need to make sure I don't make that same error for me the coming season. And if there's 2 people in the business and that's okay if you, that can be okay. What works for you? Is it better for you to have more choice in your online shop, or maybe less choice, a little bit more curated of higher priced item? What's working best for you? Now, there has been a lot in this video, and if you want to revisit, I do have a written version of this blog, and I will include the link to that in the description. If you've enjoyed the video, found it useful, I always appreciate a thumbs up or a comment, and I hope to see you in a future video.